Hello and welcome, let's begin. Starting with baking the mesh maps. Not gonna change many settings besides just the output size a bit bigger, and I'll increase the curvature sampling radius just so it does a better job baking from low poly to low poly. And with that done, we can start using the generators and masks within Painter. So this is the same way as if you had a high poly mesh, but we're just skipping that part because we don't need it. So I'll begin with the fill layer. And then I'll click on color to use only that channel, and then color picker from my PureRef photo references to try and find the right color for the base. With the color picker, it's nice because you can pick outside of the software. And this is going to be the kind of way I'm going to build up the layers of the base texture. So with another fill layer, I'm going to start building those kind of lines of fat. So here, the same thing, fill layer, use just color, and then I'm going to create a black mask and add a generator. First, I'll try out using the light before realizing there's others that can work a little bit better in this situation. But you can see I'm creating a mask where that color will appear. So I want to use the 3D shapes of the mesh, and since we've baked the maps, we kind of have them there. But well, the light works very nice in certain situations. The light generator, in this case, it's not the perfect choice. It's just gonna take me a little moment to realize that. I tried adding levels just to see if I could get the sort of the 3D gradient going down. I didn't cut out anything from this video, so you'll see all my mistakes. So I'll just get rid of those and look for position generator instead, which you see already is giving me a much better result. So I just need to adjust it a little bit and it'll fit in. So a lot of the block-in is going to be creating these sort of masks. I love texturing in general in Substance Painter is through the masks. It's nice, it's easy to go in and change things at any point. So a little bit of adjustments, and let's see how it's going to look with the right colors. By the way, I'm looking at the mask view by alt-clicking on the mask and the layer stack. And if you click back on the color, you can see the color. Happy with that, I'll click Ctrl D to duplicate the layer because that already has a bit of a mask set up. And then I'll start setting up kind of the middle part, yeah, right there, for which we'll need a few more masks. So I'll drag this guy down and position it in the middle. Again, it's always changeable, so it's nice. And then I'll duplicate the position layer and I'll make sure to set it to multiply or subtract in this case, because I'm using the white to take away from white. Then you see, with a little bit of adjustments, I'm having the desired result. Now there is no reason why I couldn't just paint these, but I like the kind of super clean result it gives me to later paint on top of. So one more mask I'm missing is the one for the bottom bit. So again, I'll duplicate, get rid of what I don't need, and I'll just, in this case, just invert the mask. Put it at the bottom and done. You just mess around with the contrast and balance for where you want it and how you want it to look. I think the bottom part is a bit more of there's a bit more of a gradient in there, so I'm trying to adjust that. Again, it doesn't matter so much. I'm being nitpicky here, but it's nice to have it clean. And as you can see, it's so easy to go and change now if I want it. I'm trying to get a bit of a different kind of sizes in between. I don't want that part to be straight in the middle because that usually is boring looking. Now with the color blocking done, I'll try and separate a bit the different planes. So I want to make the top just a tiny bit brighter than the rest. And again, I could use the light generator here, but the position is going to be fine as well, just so I can get a little bit of gradient going in. Change the color. Kind of have it. Really gives a bit of a 3D kind of look in the simplest way possible. And of course, depending on your model, you'll have to choose different generators. I'll be going through a different simple model later on, where position gradient wasn't as useful as light was, for example. But there's plenty more, and you should explore them as well. I'll just show you a few ways how I approach things, but the general idea is the same. So you can, choose a bit of a different paths, whatever suits you. I had the hardest time doing kind of stylized painting or just hand painted textures in Substance Painter before, but the brushes have improved a lot since then. You can bring in Photoshop brushes. There's plenty of adjustments and options, so it does a pretty nice job now. But here I'm continuing on to adding a bit of a 3D element to the textures. I'll try not to overdo it too much, but I want all the different planes of the mesh to have a bit of a different value changes, so even without the lighting you can tell that that piece is 3D. It will depend on the final shader that you choose, and I'm gonna do a bit of stylized shading, but I also want some of that definition in the texture. So you'll see that you can expand some panels here and you'll get more options, so the gradient from the position can be not just top to bottom but left to right, and it might fit different situations a bit better. So you should explore and familiarize yourself with what these different options have to offer. I just kind of know now in this case that I can achieve what I want, but obviously I don't know the exact option. So I'm playing around and moving different sliders, see what it gets me, if I need to invert it or maybe change the way this generator is applied on top of the other one. Or perhaps I don't even need both of them, so I'll play around and I'll find a way. That's a bit more of a true process in this way, because it's not always, you don't always know exactly what and how you're gonna achieve things. So there's a lot of play in there as well. So trying out a different generator with light, because that's gonna give me a very, very clear edge. And if I duplicate and change it to linear dodge, I can change the direction and light the other side without using the black to kind of multiply on the everything else. Basically, I'm using both light generators, one on the one side, the other on the other, and they kind of all both work nicely together. And since it gives me really harsh edges, I'm just gonna add a bit of a blur on top to blend it in just that bit nicer. Again, all these things depend on the look you want to achieve, and again, we're still gonna be overpainting it anyway, but it's still clean enough, and it's going to make a very nice base for the painting. So I'm gonna start messing around a little bit with blending modes, see if any of them give a a nicer result. It's just going to take me a little bit to realize that instead I should bring up the kind of the side plane layer up on top of everything else. And yeah, so see, I'm gonna even duplicate it, bring it on top and reduce the opacity. So now the effect is on the whole thing instead of changing the layer modes on everything else. It takes just that little bit to click sometimes. I'm just taking a pause here, taking a good look at it, trying to think of what I want to do next, whether it's just start painting or anything else. And I think in this case I decide to still add a few more details in this, even though this would still already be quite perfect to start painting on. But I just wanted to see if I could just play around a little bit more, and if adding extra details procedurally like this would help me in the painting process later on. Basically, I'm trying to figure out if there's going to be the kind of details that would be nice procedurally instead of painting it by hand, which will make it much quicker, like curvature. So I'm going to create a mask for that, just mess around with the settings here. I just want it on the edges, so I'm removing all the big ones and keeping it here. If I add a bit of blur, it should do a nice enough result. It's almost gonna give a bit of a subsurface scatter effect, which I may or may not want to use. It's easy to overdo these things, but it's definitely a nice detail to have. And some further adjustments with levels on top, so you can see how pretty much all it's been here is just creating different masks and using fill layers, which makes it so good if you suddenly change your mind and want to go change color of something. It's similar to how it would work if you were texturing for real with any realistic assets, and you'd be creating masks just a bit of a different kind. So I have a bit of something set up. I'll just put it on top and start going through blending modes to find the one I like most. Again, I don't know what I want and what would be the best option here, so I'm just gonna go through most of them and see the result. Don't want it to look like a cooked meat just yet, so gotta choose something else. And I don't like it at this point how the top bit is way too white, even though I like how it is on the bottom. So I'll be adjusting the mask just a little bit to get rid of the top part, which is easy enough with another position generator. I'll be able to either subtract or multiply depending on how the mask is set up. So see, if we do subtract, all the white is going to be taken away, and I can get rid of the mask from the top. Now my curvature is only where I want it to be, and it's all adjustable. It looks like something already. Just needs a bit more. As I've mentioned before, I'll try and add a bit of variation to it, because now it's all way too precise. And while it's okay to just go and overpaint it, I'll see if I can just mess it up a little bit, add some variety in there, just to, again, give me a better base to paint on. So if you see me just kind of rotating the model, looking at it, that's me just trying to figure out what I want to do next. So I did a mistake here. I don't want a generator, I want a filter. Misclick again. So filter, and it's going to be slow blur, which is just the best thing. What slow blur does is it kind of distorts or blurs your, well, whatever is on the layer depending on the input. So it's not just an overall sort of Gaussian blur. There's a lot more to it. So I'm going to try and just adjust the settings of the default one. And you can see if I lower the tiling quite a bit, I start just mess up the edges just a fraction. So it's going to be subtle, but it's going to be much nicer than if it was just a straight line. And this sort of thing can also kind of suggest how you want to add the details later on when painting, instead of having, a straight line to kind of work through and mess up. This adds just that bit of randomness that may be a bit harder to achieve if you don't have it. And now that I made it on one, I can just copy paste it on all the rest. I just want to check out my reference, see how much is messed up. So I see that the top bit has this nice little, almost like a pattern line. It's not a straight, perfect line. So I'm happy with slow blur giving that bit of a definition. But also I want to adjust just for that top bit, because it's way more messed up, it looks like, in my reference than the other lines. And for the final bit of variation, I'm just gonna duplicate the mid portion and adjust the mask a little bit, just to get the thin line that I noticed in the reference. So everything's already set up. I just need to move a few sliders to get them into place, and boom. It's pork. There was one little bit that escaped the block-in part, and that's the top texture, which I wasn't sure I even need. It barely adds anything, but just to show you what I've done is, this is a fill layer in the mask that I've added cells to. So just out here you can find cells. I use cells 1. So you see this goes on top of everything, and then I inverted it. I added a position with a multiply, which basically kills off all the bottom bit, leveled it a little bit, and added the blur slope. And that's all this is. So we're picking up from this point and going to the painting part.